I've been a serial entrepreneur and I've founded multiple companies in the past. I've experienced both success and failures, and it is always said that you learn more from your failures. I've committed a lot of mistakes while founding these companies, and I want to share some of those mistakes with you today so that in your entrepreneurial journey, you don't end up making the same mistakes. So watch this video completely and ensure that you're not making these mistakes in your entrepreneurial journey. Hi, my name is Anjani Kuumar and welcome to my channel. So let's talk about some of the mistakes that I made in my entrepreneurial journey. So the first thing that I always tell people is that when you are starting as a founder, don't start alone. I made the mistake of starting alone. You must have at least one or two co-founders with you. And why it is important? The first reason why it is important is because it's very lonely when you actually start a company and you need few people to support you. And the support system cannot be your employees. They have to be your partners. So that's why you need to have one or two people who can obviously help you in getting the work distributed. And secondly, you guys can work together, share the challenges, pains, griefs along with each other and be each other's support system. Because being alone, it becomes very lonely. You will not have anybody to talk to. And that's the reason I always advise people that start with one or two co-founders, but also ensure that you don't have too many people along with you. Because in one of my companies, I started with 7 people, 7 co-founders, and that was just a crowd, too many people. So that's why it's critical not to start alone, but also not to have too many people with you. The second thing, which I always tell people, is that focus on one thing at a time. I made the mistake of starting multiple things at the same time. And you always have this tendency because you are very excited. You want to do so many things. You want to bring in more functionalities in your product. You want to offer multiple services, associated products, associated services, and you want to create a bouquet of things. Don't get into this problem. Don't get into this trap, because you need to focus on one thing at a time and make that successful. That's very important because you don't have the bandwidth. You may think that you have the capacity, capability, but it doesn't work that way, because ultimately doing multiple things require a lot of resources, a lot of your time also, a lot of effort from your side. And at the end of the day, you're not able to do it well if you're doing too many things. So just focus on doing one thing. Ensure that you do it well. Spend your first year in doing just one thing, make it successful, and then you can always build more functionalities, more products, more services, but just do it one thing at a time. The third thing that I tell people is to focus on is keep their ego aside. And that's a big problem with founders because they are so obsessed with their products, services, company that, it ultimately leads to some sort of ego. And when you talk about it, you always, come across as somebody who is having that ego. And sometimes it happens with people also who have had very successful stints in the corporate world. And when they turn entrepreneur, they still think that, they have that chair and then they can, really show that ego. Just keep that ego aside, because at the end of the day, you are doing something for which somebody else will at the end of the day pay. Somebody else will pay for your product, for your services. And humility is very important in the whole journey of entrepreneurship. You need to display humility and keep your ego aside. That's the best way to become successful in this journey. And that was a great learning for you, for me also. And it actually helped me a lot because I used to meet people who were much junior to me, who were actually, talking about things which probably I thought were, not in sync with the times. But, it's good to just go through that experience also. It brings in a lot of humility in your personality. And at the end of the day, those are the people who will probably buy your products and services. So that's why you have to display that humility, keep that ego aside. The fourth thing that I always tell people is not to outsource your sales process. The sales, the revenue function has to be owned by the founders at least for the initial 1 or 2 years. Even if you have not done sales, you will have to do it. You will have to go and sell in the market because you are the founder, you have started the company, and all the buyers, all your customers would like to see you selling, because the kind of passion that you would bring in, that would be very different from somebody else who probably would be your employee and going in to do the sales. So don't ever think of outsourcing the sales function in the initial period of your entrepreneurship journey. You own the sales process. What if you have never done sales? It's okay, you will learn. I had never done sales in my career, but I ended up doing sales and I did it fairly well. So that's why never outsource the sales function. Don't make this mistake ever. And finally, be extremely frugal in terms of your expenses. Don't spend more, because sometimes the tendency is that because it's a company, it's not your personal thing per se, and you start believing that there are few things which are required to run a company, you end up spending that money. Even making your website, even having your mail system initially, do it yourself. These are very easy. So that's the reason I always tell people that as much as you can do it yourself, or use freelancers, consultants to do it. Don't hire employees. Don't spend money on them initially. That will really help you in the long run, because till the time your company starts getting revenues, till the time try to save as much money as possible. I ended up making this mistake because I hired a lot of people. I went very aggressive in terms of building infrastructure. I shouldn't have done that. So that's why I always advise people to be frugal with money, to actually try to see as much as you can do, as much as you can take help from freelancers, consultant, and don't spend money. I'm sure you would have found this video useful and you will not actually end up making these 5 mistakes that I spoke about. These are very important. And we don't realize, but most of the people I coach, I see that at some point in time, they end up making one of these mistakes. So that's the reason I thought of making this video, so that I can share my experience with you and you get benefited by some of these things that I have talked about in this video. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with family and friends, and especially in the community of founders, entrepreneurs, so that they also get benefited by it. And if you have any questions, any suggestions, put them in the comment section below and I'll answer them personally. And then I'll see you in the next video. Till then, thank you very much for watching this.